Hi and welcome. My name is Alexander and I'm a PhD student from Lulu University of Technology. My research is about house building productivity and how systematic approaches can help companies understand productivity and the effects of actions on it. I'm here to talk about keeping track of productivity in house building, a paper written by me together with Torbjörn Ilar and Lars Stehn. In the debate of construction productivity, there has been different opinions whether the productivity of construction is bad or not, and several statements and studies point out that there are needs for improvements. For instance, in studies by McKinsey, construction compared to other industries does not show promising results over the years when it comes to productivity. However, to improve productivity, first we need to know what do we mean with productivity. And it is a really wide term with different understandings depending on the context, organizational levels, and the purpose for addressing the term. So this has led to different methods and interpretations of how to measure productivity. The thing with existing methods in literature is that industry practitioners they mention that they don't really get a lot of use of these methods, and thus they don't use them as common practice for improving their productivity. Well, if they do not, then how do they then measure and use productivity? This paper presents the second part of an R&D study of productivity carried out with 5 companies in Sweden. For the paper, 13 interviews were done with managers asking questions like what is, why measure, how measure, and what affects productivity. Another interview was held to talk about the planning and negotiations with labor unions. The findings were then analyzed to find out what the practitioners understand as productivity, how they keep track of it, or measure, control, and act in projects to ensure an acceptable productivity rate. And then this analysis was discussed with key persons from the companies. Productivity for the studied companies starts somewhere with the existence of needs. It continues through a journey with many steps and actions and points to consider, and it ends with the completion and the fulfillment of the previous needs. What productivity is about is how well resources and processes are designed and combined through this journey to be transformed into outputs. This means that it is about efficiency, it is also about effectiveness, but it's also about many other things and factors that affect the journey. It is also, of course, a measure commonly expressed as the relation between output and input. Well, efficiency, effectiveness, and many other things. What does this mean? This means that there are inputs that are inserted into the transformation processes to become outputs. It also means that there are influencing factors that affect or are related to the inputs, processes, and the outputs. Then, the managers, to keep track of productivity, they would continuously need to look at productivity per se, but also much more. So, how do they keep track? First things first. In the beginning of the journey, they set up a plan. And this plan has a level of productivity that is meant to be kept during the whole project. This plan is based on previously collected KPIs that are used together with expert assessments of how long each moment is going to take and to what cost. In the end, when the project is over or done, bottom line times and costs are used to calculate the productivity of the project. And these are the formal ways of how measures are done and used. It is during the journey or the actual production where the use of and the measurement of productivity becomes unclear. There are many things to look at, and it is a complex system with many actions and many points before reaching the goal. House builders, they control and assess things that has to do with costs, time, resources, quality, work environment, and project culture. All of these are considered to be part of checking and enabling productivity. But this is done in many different ways depending on the project, the manager, or the company, and there is a mix between quantitative and qualitative measures. Some of the measures of productivity are really measures of productivity per se, but some are indirect measures from controlling the project that have an effect on productivity. For instance, some use and have diagrams or statistics and measure productivity all the time to control how productivity evolves during the project, but others, they assess it qualitatively and take it up, for instance, during daily huddles or think about it when they go out and control the site. Quality effects, for instance, they are controlled during production by workers or by supervisors or during inspections, and these are not productivity measures per se, but we know that they affect productivity a lot. So that's why they are considered to be part of keeping track of productivity. And other factors that affect productivity, they are incorporated into the daily work of the site managers, but the methods that are used and their actual effects, they usually stay in the head of the managers because of the lack of formalized systematic routines for measuring and using productivity. This means that the productivity level in ongoing projects are based on qualitative judgments of site managers until the work is finalized, without clear evidence of the actual productivity situations right now in the project. To conclude, we can say that managers, they measure or assess many things continuously, as in the figure. But this is done in many different ways depending on the manager, the project, or the company. Even if there are some quantitative measures in use, most are qualitative judgments that stay in the head of the managers, leaving little evidence to pass on later for improvements in future projects. Lastly, there is a lack of systematic routines for measuring productivity in and between processes and sub-processes of projects. And this hampers clear evidence of the actual situations in the project right now. And it also makes it difficult to track what enabled a certain level of productivity. As KPIs actually are used in planning, together with qualitative judgments, results are actually being transferred from project to project. And one next step is to study performance indexes and measurement systems that could be used in projects in order to improve productivity over time. Another topic to cover is, what about systematizing productivity measurements and control in and between processes and sub-processes of projects? How can this be done, and what effects could we get out of it? Thank you very much for listening.